If you have a felony in Texas, touching the wrong gun at the wrong time can become a new felony. That includes borrowing a gun, storing one for somebody, keeping one in your car, or trying to buy one before you know the law. Here's the direct answer. A felony conviction does not mean your full gun rights automatically come back in Texas. Texas has a 5-year rule, but that rule is limited. Federal law can still block you from having a firearm or ammunition. The biggest trap is thinking Texas law and federal law say the same thing. They do not. Under Texas Penal Code, Section 46.04, a felony conviction generally bars firearm possession at first. That bar lasts until the 5th anniversary of release from confinement or supervision, whichever is later. That means the clock may start later than you think. It could be 5 years after prison release. It could be 5 years after probation. It could be 5 years after parole or mandatory supervision. The later date controls. But after that 5-year period, Texas law still does not give broad gun rights back. The Texas State Law Library explains that after the 5-year period, state law limits possession to the premises where the person lives. That is a narrow home location rule. It does not mean you can carry in public. It does not mean you can buy a gun. It does not mean you can keep one in your truck or take one hunting. And it does not mean federal law is cleared. So the Texas rule may reduce one state law restriction in a limited home setting. It is not full restoration of gun rights. Federal law generally prohibits a person convicted of a crime punishable by more than 1 year in prison from possessing firearms or ammunition. Not every case is identical. The exact conviction, sentence, and legal definition matter, but many felony convictions trigger the federal ban. Federal law can still apply even when Texas law has a limited exception. So a person might think, it has been more than 5 years and I'm at home, so I'm good. Under Texas law, that may be one question. Under federal law, it may be a completely different question. That is why 5 years later is not the same as fully legal. Time by itself usually does not remove a federal firearms disability. State permission by itself may not be enough either. This is also why you should not test your status with a background check. A denial can create problems. A mistaken approval does not guarantee you were legal. Getting gun rights back depends on your exact case. It can depend on the conviction, court records, and sentence. It can also depend on what rights were lost and later restored. The main paths people usually look at are a full pardon, firearm rights restoration, a qualifying expunction or set-aside, or federal relief if it applies. But the label on the paperwork is not enough. Federal rules say a pardon, expungement, set-aside, or restoration of civil rights can remove a federal firearms disability only if it fully restores firearm rights and does not still restrict firearm possession. That means a partial restoration may not solve the federal problem. A pardon also does not always fix the gun issue automatically. You have to know what the pardon says, what rights it restores, and whether it leaves any firearm restriction in place. The better question is not just, did I get some kind of relief? The better question is, does this fully clear both Texas and federal firearm restrictions for my exact conviction? In Texas, full pardon applications and firearm rights restoration applications go through the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles clemency process. The board reviews the application. If the board recommends clemency, it sends the recommendation to the governor. Approval is not automatic. Texas also describes restoration of firearm rights as limited to extreme and unusual circumstances. The board gives an example where lack of firearm rights prevents the person from earning a livelihood, so a stronger argument may involve a real work need. Hunting personal preference or general self-defense may not be enough under the board's stated criteria. The board provides forms for full pardon and restoration of firearm rights applications, but using a form does not mean approval is likely. Before you apply or touch a firearm, take these steps. First, do not possess or carry a gun yet. Do not borrow, store, or try to buy one yet. Second, get your court records and discharge papers. You need the exact conviction, not just what you remember the charge being called. Third, confirm whether your conviction triggers federal firearm restrictions. Fourth, talk to a qualified Texas criminal defense attorney who understands both Texas and federal firearm law. Ask direct questions. Is Texas law clear for my situation? Is federal law clear too? Would a pardon, expunction, set-aside, or restoration order fully restore firearm rights? Would anything in the order still restrict possession? Fifth, if restoration makes sense, review the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles forms with legal guidance. Do not assume the form is the strategy. The strategy is showing why you qualify under the actual standard, and do not test eligibility by trying to buy a gun. A background check is not legal advice. A pass does not always protect you. A failed attempt can create more problems. The safer move is to get the answer before any firearm is involved. So how can a felon get his gun rights back in Texas? The honest answer is not automatically. Texas may allow very limited possession at home after the 5-year period, but that is not full gun rights restoration. Federal law may still prohibit possession of firearms or ammunition. The main legal paths are usually a full pardon, express firearm rights restoration, a qualifying expunction or set-aside, or federal relief where available. But the details matter. Your exact conviction matters, your paperwork matters, and the difference between Texas law and federal law matters. One wrong guess can create a new felony. If this helped, like this video and subscribe to Fresh Start Society. For more information and practical reentry resources, visit freshstartsociety.hq.com.